Hey mama, are you a multi-passionate mom who is juggling all the things, nursing a baby, battling laundry, trying to keep it together and keep a spicy marriage, and feeling like you're feeling all of it? What's up? I'm Ashley Carroll. I'm here to hold your hand through this process because I believe when you're ready to take control of your life, beat the limiting excuses, step into your own power, you can not only survive, but you can thrive. But you're gonna have to show up for yourself. It's time for me to tough love your way through prioritization, taking self-care seriously, getting rid of excuses, reconnecting with your family, kids, and spouse, and quite honestly, learning to love the chaos because the glory is in the journey. It's in the mess. In this podcast, you will find balance for busy mamas, navigating mom guilt, time management strategies, and everything in between with no fluff and lots of fun. Let's go. Hey, what's up, ladies? Happy Wednesday. I am so pumped about this episode because it has been a long time coming, and this is definitely going to transform your relationships. I don't know why I just sang that, but it definitely hit me to the core when I started accumulating some of this information that I'm about to share with you guys, because this is not a strong suit of mine. This is definitely something that my husband can attest that I am struggling on, and always probably going to be working on for the rest of my life to impact our relationship in a better way. So let's get to the number one thing you're not doing that will transform your relationship. P.S. It's not sex. And I'm sure that half of you, about 50% of you guys are like, dang it. Like you wish that it was sex, because that would be so much easier than having to deal with the core issues. And okay, pause. You guys are going to hear my infant, because that is life right now. I guarantee you, if you're on the phone with me, if we were talking, girl, you called me up, you're going to hear screaming. And I hope that I hear loud noises on your end, and we just have this agreement, this mutual agreement of like, yo, motherhood, right? And we just carry on because that's life. So that's exactly what you're going to get here. And I'm sorry if you don't like that. But as I was saying, at least you know that I watch my kids, right? Like, he's in here with me. I didn't like stick him with another child or like leave him in his crib. Anyways, back to the original story. Half of you guys are like, dang it, it's not sex. Like, that would have been so much easier. And then half of you are like, praise the Lord Jesus, it's not sex, because you know, sometimes that's just the season you're in. And honey, if you're in that season, we also got to do something. There's an episode for that. Scroll down, my friend. There's some episodes that you should listen to. Let me tell you guys right now, if you haven't listened to the marriage full disclosure episodes that I've done with myself and my husband, you guys need to hit those up, because those are gold, right? Like, those are some real juicy episodes that you're definitely going to want to listen to, that are so helpful in the intimacy arena of your marriage, relationship, what have you. Okay, let me bring it back in. So the number one thing you're not doing that will transform your relationship, drumroll, is apologizing. Yeah. I'm sorry. You hate me now, right? Like, you were pumped to listen to this and you're like, oh, crap. Apologizing. I am so bad, you guys. I'm so bad about saying sorry. I don't know about you. It is something that I struggle with. I feel like, and tell me if you guys can relate, comment me, I don't care, IG story, tag me, whatever. But I did not grow up in a household where we visibly apologize to each other. Like, I was thinking about this last night before I recorded this, and I was trying to think of a time that I ever saw my parents, or my mom and my stepfather, apologize to each other. And y'all, like, these are fighters. Like, my parents were fighters all the dang time. So you would think that at least once somebody apologized to somebody, right? No, zero times. I literally cannot think of a time where anybody apologized to each other. It was just, they fought, they argued, they didn't talk for like half the day or what have you. And then, you know, the next day it would like just start over. Okay, so why the heck is apologizing so hard? And I think it's hard, and a lot of other experts, because I did a lot of research before I did this podcast episode, is they think that apologizing is so hard because it involves a lot of hurt, typically, right? Or some deep pain, like deep past struggle, conflict, something that's really tender, right? We feel defensive. We feel like it's a sign of weakness, which I think was my main struggle, is that I felt the struggle between this right and wrong battle, and also just feeling like if I was wrong, it was admitting fault, and somehow that made me weak or made me bad or maybe less than, or there was just a lot of negative connotation for me in apologizing, especially if I was found out to be wrong or if it made me feel like I was wrong. So there's a lot of hurt, defensiveness, and it has us looking at our inner conflicts, our inner selves, and sometimes that's hard. Like that has to unpack a lot of things, and we just don't want to do all the work to unpack everything for that one apology. So I was listening to Brene Brown's new podcast. If you haven't listened, it is transformational. It's so good. And the second episode that I listened to that she does is on apologizing. I literally got done listening to it. And after you guys listen to this episode, you definitely need to go check it out. It's so impactful. But after I got done listening to it, I came home because I was listening to it while I was on a walk. And I walked in the door and I went up to my husband. I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just sorry. I'm sorry I don't say I'm sorry enough. I'm going to do better. I felt so guilty, y'all. Okay, so on that second episode, she had on this guest, and her name was Harriet Lerner, and she's amazing. And she just recently came out with this book in 2017, and it was called Why Won't You Apologize? Healing Big Betrayals and Everyday Hurts. You guys, she's a genius. So I want to share with you some of the gifts that she said were the gifts that we received from apologizing that I thought were huge in understanding like really why and really why it's worth working on this. Okay, and I'm just paraphrasing and giving you the summary and the takeaways that I feel were important from that episode. So if you want to dig deeper, definitely go listen to the episode. But here are the gifts. First off, you give the gift of making the other person or the hurt party feel seen, feel validated, feel understood. You know what it's like to have somebody do something to you, even if it's small, or even if you don't even realize that you did it, but just the validation of it or the confirmation of your feelings is huge. And it makes us feel like our feelings matter, that they're real, that they're okay to feel. It's important because you may have experiences beforehand where you didn't get the apology. And so every experience thereafter matters that it's acknowledged, right? Because we all have baggage and we all have things that we carry with us that moving forward, it affects future relationships and present relationships. And so it's helpful if the other person acknowledges your feelings, especially if previously your feelings were never acknowledged. So you can also think of that on the flip side when you approach other people, assume that that's the case, right? Like assuming so that you cover all your bases and everybody's feelings are validated, and it's important. And it also lets the other person let go of that resentment. You guys know, I feel like this is going to be a twofold thing every time I say something that we feel, because not only are you doing it for them, but you should be able to relate in that half the time we're angry or resentful because there was a lack of an apology. It also provides emotional safety moving forward in that relationship, right? Because you feel like you can make a mistake and you can apologize and it be a safe, open space to allow for the apology, as well as if you are the hurt party, you can expect an apology because you're creating that back and forth. You're creating a healthy, open space to allow for apologies to happen, which is huge. The second type of a gift that she suggests is that it's actually a gift to yourself to apologize. And hear me out on this one, because at first I was like, what? Like apologizing is going to be a gift to myself? How is that possible? It's horrible. It's an awful, awful experience for me. But on the flip side, it takes the pressure off of you because you're admitting that you're not perfect, and therefore you don't have to uphold that standard anymore. Like you don't have to uphold that right, wrong balance, or the feeling that like if you say you're sorry, it means that you're lacking in perfection, or that you didn't do the job, or that you're never meeting the bar, which gave me new perspective. It also helps you to gain self-respect. It also allows you to be more respected from others, and growth and maturity. We can all use a little growth all the time. So the third thing is it's a gift to the relationship. Your relationship will be able to have the ability to repair the hurt, to not lose the relationship. You guys know one of the things that she mentions in the episode is often it's in times of trauma, in times of mourning, in times of loss, when things are said out of emotion, like your parents' funeral and your sister or your sister-in-law or your brother said something or didn't say something. And it's not really the fact of the situation, right? Because it's an awful situation and we can understand that. We can have perspective and look at everybody's emotions are heightened. We probably said things that we shouldn't have said, but it was the lack of the apology that is what causes the resentment, the anger, and the continuation of those feelings, and not really the actual situation. So apologizing gives our relationship the strength to endure conflict and to move on, to grow, to stay connected, because you're able to have that mutual respect and understanding and apology between each other. I don't know if that alone is enough to encourage you guys to start apologizing, but this stuff was really hitting home for me, man. And the cost of a bad apology. Now, this really hit home for me also. Harriet talks about what a unacceptable apology is like, and I do this all the freaking time. So it really got to me. And the cost of a bad apology is a loss in the relationship. Like, if it continues, you just can't sustain a relationship with it because it's so huge. And apologizing is such a boring topic. Nobody wants to talk about it. And I don't even want to talk about it. But it's so huge and it's so impactful. And it's so true that it holds so much power. Otherwise, half of the anger, half of the hurt feelings, the sour feelings, the resentment would be not there, right? They'd be voided. But they're very much there. They carry on with us, and so they are important, especially in our marriages, that we want to thrive and survive and continue on. Tell me if this sounds familiar. I'm really glad you apologized to your sister, but next time you could have been a lot nicer. You could have used a different tone and maybe also look her in the eye. Don't forget to look her in the eye when you apologize. Otherwise, it's not a good apology. Or, hey, Sam, look me in the eye when you're apologizing. Look me in the eye. Nope. Look me in the eye when you're apologizing. Say sorry like you mean it and look me in the eye. Do those sound familiar to you guys? Y'all, I got called out on this one, and I hope that you feel called out on this one too, because it's fixable and we should be aware of it and we should make changes, because the number one reason children don't learn to apologize as adults is because we as parents say those exact things. We say, thank you for apologizing, but, and then we blah, 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 blah. Thank you for apologizing, but I think you should have told your sister, or you looked me in the eye when you apologized, blah, 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 blah. The number one worst way of totally voiding out, or not, what is canceling out an apology, making your apology not even matter or have any validation, is by adding on to the apology. Not only does it take away from the whole apology itself, right? It cancels it out completely. But also when you're talking to your kids, they totally zone out after that. They hear, thank you for apologizing. And then after you go on and ramble on, they totally forgot the most important takeaway from having that interaction with you was the fact that you apologized, or that they apologized. Because now they're listening to your long spiel about how you should do it better next time and blah, 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 right? And I'm not just calling you guys out, I'm calling myself out on this too, because I do it all the time. So I put a Post-it note up in our room, our like family art room, that says, I appreciate your apology. And, or it says, thank you for apologizing. I appreciate it, is what it says. And it does not say but on there. And it's so we can look, and I can look and remind myself that there is no but. There's no but to apologizing. And even after learning this, I still catch myself, and I've shared this information with my husband so he can kind of be like, and so I self-correct. But it's hard, you guys. This shouldn't be so she grows. It should be like so we grow, because this is not just me talking at you guys. I'm growing with you guys. This is stuff that I'm learning too, and I need to work on, especially this. This is my weak spot. So a true apology does not include the word but. It doesn't matter what you say after the but. It makes your apologize. It makes your apology not matter. It loses all meaning, all purpose. I mean, just think about it. Whenever you've been in a situation and somebody's like, oh, yeah, Sarah, I'm just really sorry about that. But if you would have just, driven a little slower, or told me earlier, then I wouldn't have done this and that and the other, and then we wouldn't be here, right? Like, and you guys know you want to like just whack that person upside the head, because it, like, if they would have just stopped and said, you know what, I'm sorry. You guys could have moved on. It would have been a lot better situation. And you wouldn't be still PO'd at Karen for being ridiculous, right? So we have to let go of this feeling that apologizing somehow makes us weak, inferior. It admits to fault. Like, you guys, we're not admitting to fault. We're being human. We're saying, like, no. I mean, it doesn't even matter who's right or wrong, right? You should still apologize for making them feel that way because that was not your intention. Unless it was, and then that's not an apology. Don't call somebody out. Here's another thing. It's okay to call somebody out on their actions, but don't call it an apology because it's not. So you need to separate the two. If you want to talk about the situation, hash it out, go ahead, but don't say it within your apology because that's not an apology. And you can't assume that it is. Like, you can't think that all your bases are covered by cramming it all into one sentence of, I'm sorry, but blah, 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 blah. You should talk about it and then be like, you know what? I'm sorry. Or at a different time, after you've apologized, you guys can reapproach the situation, talk about the situation later. But don't use the apology as an excuse to call out all the things and rehash the past and rehash, like the situation, because then it's no longer an apology. We have to let go and allow ourselves to grow. We have to allow ourselves to admit to imperfection, to being human, and just to look at the benefits of what apologizing gives us within our relationships, our friend circles, our marriages. And apologizing helps you to let go of shame, hurts that allow you to grow stronger, become connected emotionally. It avoids that cycle of fighting who is wrong or right. I mean, this is something that has made me look at, and just recently when I was doing the research and it was talking about how apologizing avoids the cycle of fighting about who's wrong or right. If you always have that fight of like, man, you're like, that's right, I forgot, you're always right. You guys, this is me. This is my broken record. So I think it has to do with the fact that I struggle with apologizing. And so I view apologizing as this right or wrong kind of like mark. I'm keeping tallies, and that's just not what it is at all. So if you feel like that, if you can relate to that, we got to let it go. We got to look deeper because that's not the case. It has nothing to do with that. And for me, it's looking at my past, my childhood, and realizing that I saw apologizing as being inferior, and it never happened in my household. So and then now it gives me perspective into looking like, oh, okay, so that's why I'm tallying these right or wrongs. That's why when I have conflict with others, it always feels like this right or wrong battle, and apologizing makes me feel inferior. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to leave you with this huge piece of advice that I repeat to every single couple that I know, because we used to have some mentors a long time ago. I mean, they're still good friends of ours, but they were specifically mentoring us for a period. And I remember them telling us that if one of us is winning, we're both losing. If one of you is winning, you're both losing. This is huge because when you're sticking to your guns and you know that you could just say, I'm sorry, to validate the other person's feelings, not being an confession that anybody's right or wrong or that you agree, you can still apologize and disagree. You're both losing. If you're sticking to your guns and gritting your teeth, you're being stubborn as heck because you do not want to say I'm sorry, then you're both losing, because that means that your relationship is getting weaker. You're not gaining that emotionally safe space or that connectedness as a couple. You can't grow forward as a couple. You're stunting that growth. So let's not prevent growth and all the good things that can come from apologizing that create a really fruitful and thriving relationship because we can't say I'm sorry. You're both gonna lose if one of you is too selfish enough to come together and compromise. You guys, we tell our kids this all the time, but somehow we bypass the laws and think it doesn't apply to our relationships. So if I could leave you with anything out of this whole episode that you probably didn't want to hear and weren't ready for me to call out on you, if you are winning, you're both losing. Boom. Done. That's it. I hope you guys found something really good out of this episode. I'm sorry it wasn't anything related to sex. If you're looking for that, there's a ton of episodes below. Make sure you check those out. Today wasn't about that. Today I had to bring awareness to something else that's more hard, I feel like. So thank you guys for listening. Now that you're completely shook and you hate me, I hope you come back next week for another episode on So She Grows, and I will catch you guys later. Heyo, thank you guys for listening to that episode. If you found it helpful or you found anything impactful, any takeaways, share it with a friend, share it with another mama. Make sure you shoot it up on IG stories, tag me. I would love to see who's listening and what your guys' thoughts of this episode were, or hit me up in the Facebook group, the So She Grows Mom Tribe. I would love to see you in there. I'm always going live. I would want to answer your questions, talk about these things. As always, subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode, and leave a rating and let me know what your thoughts are of this podcast. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have an awesome week. Bye.